Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for clicking. It means a lot to you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we're talking about Erik back. And for those who may have forgotten, since he's irrelevant now, here is a refresher.
I want to give individual immunity to Natalie.
You officially go down as the dumbest survivor ever in the history of Survivor ever.
So obviously a pretty sharp guy. Yeah, he definitely has not gotten any sharper since then because his social media presence is nothing short of horrifying. I mean, the guy has opinions that are so bad that to me, like a 16-year-old can honestly laugh at them. And honestly, I feel like I have more brain power than he does at this point with some of the ridiculous stuff that he's saying. He targets people who disagree with him as being idiots or being dumb or being racist or sexist or, you know, all types of ists and obics and things like that. So in today's video, I'm going to go through a few absurd tweets from him and give my opinion on those tweets. And we're going to get to the bottom of why in the world Erik has lost his mind. Before we start, like, share, subscribe if you're new. You can join my Discord server down below. You can do all that good stuff because it's free, it's easy, and it really helps the channel out. All right, first tweet says, seeing a lot of boycott 4th of July posts with respect to Roe of return, gun violence, and other topics. And it reminded me a few years ago, I told my dad that I don't like the 4th of July as much as I did when I was a kid because of what I had learned about America. He was visibly upset. And rightfully so. It seems like Erik has so much privilege, right? He's in a place of complete privilege. He lives in the best country that the world has ever seen, and yet he still finds things. Oh, I'm so angry about, conservative. I'm so angry about the oppression. I feel so oppressed. Shows his desire to be a victim. He feels comfortable being oppressed, right? Obviously, in the history of the world, being the oppressor is usually the good thing because you're in power, you're in control, and humans want power and control. But it seems like nowadays, and especially with Erik, he feels comfortable being the oppressed one, even though obviously he's in a place of privilege, living in the best country that's ever existed. And so I think to me that the big issue I see is the fact that Erik is not recognizing how silly what he's saying sounds. He's trying to act like America's this horrible, horrible place. But if you gave Erik the option to move to Russia or to move to China, I guarantee you he would say no in a second. And there's a reason why. It's because the country is so good. Obviously, every country has problems and things that it needs to improve on, but it seems like Erik only wants to focus on those, and like he says in the tweet, not celebrate the good things and see America in a different light than how he used to before he got indoctrinated with all of this anti-American sentiment. In this next tweet, we see Erik saying, maybe if conservative leaders stop cuckoo suggestions like injecting bleach, windmills cause cancer, and banning textbooks, we wouldn't have to go here. And by go here, he means create the Ministry of Truth that has kind of risen up in this administration. And so my biggest thing here is he's obviously strawmanning the conservative argument here. Instead of actually beating the argument coming from most Republicans and conservatives, he instead wants to just beat the easy arguments that come from extremely radical people on the right, instead of just like actually beating the argument on the right. Of course, it's very easy to argue against things like the fact that windmills causes cancer or that injecting bleach into your body helps with COVID. These are very easy things to argue against, but obviously for Erik, that those are the only things he can argue against because his argument doesn't hold weight. So instead of actually beating his opponent's argument, he instead strawmans their arguments to that and then beats that argument. It's not really proving he's right. He's just in a way kind of arguing with a ghost, and the ghost is the arguments of the alt-right rather than the arguments that are actually being proposed in opposition to his arguments. But don't worry, he also doesn't understand free speech as well, or at least he doesn't like it, or maybe he doesn't like it when it's not his own speech. Who knows? He's fucking crazy. But essentially what happens in this exchange between my friend the bitter juror, by the way, go check out his channel. He makes great anti-woke survivor content. So him and the bitter juror were having a little Twitter war, and the bitter juror was trying to explain to Erik that free speech is valuable because even if the speech isn't what I like, you can say it, and that leads to a more open dialogue. And Erik responded by saying, eat shit, bitter juror. Look, free speech. And I guess what this was trying to elicit from Bitter was, whoa, I don't like that free speech at all when it hurts my feelings. But instead, the Bitter juror responded by saying, yeah, exactly. That is free speech. That's the value of it, is you can say anything you want as long as it's not inciting violence. That's the entire point, is that it allows us to share our opinions no matter how much they aren't in the majority or they're opposing a different person's opinion. And I think for me, it's the fact that Erik doesn't understand that, and he thinks that was going to make Bitter bitter juror just reconsider everything and say, well, you know what, free speech, it's just not that good anymore because it's hurting my feelings. The entire argument that the bitter juror was making is that free speech is valuable whether it hurts your feelings or not. It's speech. That's the entire point. It should be protected at all costs. In this next tweet, Erik says, if you read books, you know that communism is controlling the means of production, and the democratic socialism allows for all of the same aspects as capitalism, but with responsible government to provide fairness to people. Wow, so what you're saying is capitalism is just capitalism, but better. Oh, it sounds so awesome. It sounds so fair and nice, and everyone's happy and great. And this is what happens when you debate someone who has communist/socialist beliefs, is they always say, well, listen, it's basically just capitalism, but just fair. It's nice and it's warm and it hugs you like a teddy bear. When in reality, obviously, it's failed thousands of times. It's killed millions and millions of people for reasons. Obviously, these reasons aren't being discussed by Erik, because if they were, it would destroy his whole argument. And that's what happens, is that they always say, well, that wasn't real capitalism. That wasn't real socialism. Well, when is the real communism going to show up? Because to me, when you try something dozens and dozens, in fact, at this point, probably hundreds of times, and it fails every time, and it leads people to flee the country at alarming rates, die at alarming rates, and have a horrible quality of life, to me, that shows the real communism, and it just doesn't work. And to me, I see Erik as completely ignoring that for the sake of his argument. He doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that his ideas don't work, and they never have, and they never will. And of course, at the bottom here, he uses the most digestible example of socialism with Medicare for all. And obviously the money has to come from somewhere. And of course it says Canada has a publicly funded healthcare system. What does that mean? It means you raise taxes by an inordinate amount, of course, because there's no other way to pay for things like this. Now, obviously, I'm not big into governmental systems. I'm more on the social side of politics, but an idiot could see that Erik is obviously trying to conflate his argument by just saying, oh, it's the fair choice. I mean, if you have any common sense, it's basically just capitalism, it has all the great things from capitalism. And then you just kind of dip it in some socialism, and it comes out, it looks so easy to subscribe to. It's so simple. All you have to do is be a socialist, because it's not real, or communist, but it's not like Castro, it's not like Stalin, it's like my communism. If I was in charge, I would be such a good and fair communist. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't, because it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. And that's something that Erik just either doesn't know, doesn't want to accept, or wants to ignore purposely for the sake of, conflating his power, I guess. I don't know. But what do you think? Do you think Erik's a genius and I'm in deep denial of this truth? Or do you think that maybe Erik should just delete his Twitter account forever? Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. As always, none of this happens without you guys. Without you guys, I'm just a weird guy speaking a weird microphone. Is there anybody else who has lost their mind in the survivor community? Bring them to my attention down below, and maybe, just maybe, I'll make a video on them. And if that's it, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.